Hi. I've watched a few of your episodes, and it was interesting, and I thought I would send you my story. If you do decide to put this on your channel, you may do so by condensing the story in your own words. For the sake of authenticity, I had to type it out lengthy. Here it is. My story. Alien paranormal in my room. I live in a crowded place in a city, not a remote rural area. In India, the paranormal, or cryptids, or UFO encounters are extremely rare, not like in the United States, as it's populated and people have been living here for many, many years, much longer in comparison to places like the US. Sorry, my English is not very good, like native English speakers and writers. Please bear with me. This happened back in December of 2017. I hadn't worked a job since 2014, and finally got a job as a technical support engineer in an IT company. In my city, around October 2017, that I got this job. It was only roughly 30 to 45 minutes away from my house, so pretty close by. It was a graveyard shift job. I had to sleep in the morning from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. It was a very professional experience at the workplace. I was providing technical troubleshooting support for an electronic online streaming product. You might have heard of it, but I won't disclose it. I was handling troubleshooting for TV channels, the first 4 TV channels mainly, ones that are very popular that you probably all watch. So my room layout is simple. In the mornings when I used to sleep, I would have considerable amount of daylight in my room. During the month of December 2017, there was an increase of work pressure at the office. I was scrolling through the American TV channel listings during break at work and saw this TV channel called Shudder about horror. I don't think too much of it, nor do I relate looking at it at the office to my incident. Once I did receive a call, and I'm not able to remember very clearly, but I do remember a call with a very oddly toned voice, seeming to be speaking an unknown language with me. It kept going for some time, and I followed the instructions, we procedure, and disconnect the call. This happened during the end of December 2017. I used to be tired after work, but during the end of December 2017, around the Christmas week, I would return home and sleep, but would never feel like I really slept. I would feel as though I just came home, slept, and an hour or so had only passed. The first. One day I woke up and saw the walls pinkish metallic and lights, still laying in bed, partially asleep. I was saying in my sleep, I need to tell my mom she has really made the room look great with these lights while I was asleep. But when I woke, I thought it was a dream, as my room was just the way it was usually. Number 2. The second time, I felt like sleep paralysis, but something lifted my right hand and bumping its fist with mine, pushing my fist back with its overpowering strength to push back my fist pointed towards it. When I tried to wake up, it was like I had a dream effect, where I won't feel pain or fear, and was just really drowsy and sleepy. Once my mother had brought me some coffee during my sleep, and I had grabbed her hand and pulled her all the way while I wasn't in control of my actions. I had snapped out of it, and then gone to sleep again. I seemed to have some scratch marks, not severe in my hands. I would take it lightly. So, here's the actual story or encounter. One day, I was sleeping in the morning. I felt there was something or someone in my room. I thought it was my mother or father, or even both, since my mother would come into my room occasionally to tidy up the room or give me something to eat. This time, though, I felt the person in the room was more than just one. I assumed it to be my dad and mother. All the while in my sleep, I assumed this. I was having this sort of sleep paralysis sensation. But in it, I was praying, Lord Jesus, help me wake out of this, and it released. So, I turned myself in the bed and slept on my belly downward. A minute later, I felt a hand under my belly, and it flipped me on my back, belly up. I weigh 110 plus kilograms, and this time, I was off in my sleep. I wanted to wake up, yell at my mom or dad for flipping me over to change the bed sheets. My mom or dad would occasionally change the sheets in this manner when I was younger. During those seconds, before opening my eyes, I was thinking, why and how are they doing things? Being able to flip me belly up with one hand. Unexpectedly, I opened my eyes when I was flipped belly up and saw this humanoid towards my leg walk backwards and vanish to the left into the wall. Another doing the same, both now realizing that I was awake. I clearly saw its face, body structure. It was dark, and there was some kind of metallic glittering on it, like light being reflected from it. But this light was emanating from its body. It was thin and having long arms. It looked like the leader of those things, a crown-like pointed head. I sat and saw it walk backward into the wall and then vanish. The other side of the wall is the interior hall of the first floor of my house, so there was no way it walked into that room. When it walked into the wall in reverse, it posed as though it's aligning itself into some portal, similar to how we would position ourselves while entering into a crowded elevator and tuck our body, face, and hands inside before the elevator doors would close. I would have witnessed it for as long as 7 to 10 seconds clearly. I didn't see any portals though. I'm a graphic designer as well, and I have attached a recreation of how they appeared in my room. Now to think of it, they looked very similar to a species of gaming characters that appear in a video game called StarCraft 2, but a bit more slender. One thing I can say, we call them aliens or UFOs, or in the paranormal realm. Nowadays, instead of demons or devils, because if the devil exists, the world doesn't like to acknowledge that God also exists. With this, I came to the end of my experience. Surely in my family, we have witnessed quite a few paranormal incidents, but in all my experiences, nothing as close as something as touching and flipping me over as though to examine me. Hi, my name is Derek, and I've been listening to a few of your alien UFO encounter episodes. I've heard a few stories now about how people are engulfed in this mysterious white light and then transported several hours into the future, remaining in the same spot along the highway or on the side of the road, depending on the story, but traveling several days in the future, or maybe a few hours. There's also countless stories and encounter stories about this on Reddit and the internet. Well, I'm here to share you my own personal experience, but I have a different experience. See, I too in my car, driving down a small two-way highway, was also engulfed in a white light that I can't quite explain, which led me to your channel, looking for answers. And I was surprised to hear how people had very similar events happen, but different outcomes. What I mean by this is I too was engulfed just like them, by a bright, overwhelming, angelic light. But instead of time passing, like these people had, for me, the time remained the same, except instead of that, I was transported over 400 miles away in an instant on a completely different stretch of road and highway, while a second had not even passed. This was just back in 2018, and it was around 7:30 p.m. I was driving home from a friend's house, and I had about 15 minutes till I got to home. I saw a dark object coming towards my direction in the night sky, but not thinking much of it, because I'm pretty sure there's a military base in the area, and there is low hovering aircraft. Well, things around me started to get gray, and then from gray, it turned to a bright, overwhelming light that ate up everything around me. The only way I can accurately describe it is an all-consuming white light, almost kind of like a heat flash, if you will. And it happened all within about 2 to 3 seconds, going from our normal light setting to being completely taken over and consumed in white light. Once it happened, it immediately dissipated, and I was driving in a completely different area on a completely different road, over 400 miles away from my actual house. As soon as the light dissipated, I realized I had no idea where I was. Immediately pulled over, pulled up Google Maps, and I remember panicking, thinking this couldn't be right. I was well over halfway across the state. It would take me hours to get back home, roughly 5. So, I slept in my car that night, panicking, trying to figure out what to do. The next morning, I spent the 5 hours explaining to my boss the reason why I was late. And obviously, he's not going to believe that UFOs took me, which I didn't even realize at the time. But I didn't really know a way to explain it. So I just explained to him that a family emergency happened on the other side of the state. And very fortunately for me, he gave me grace. I ended up getting back to my house about 1 p.m. the following day, because, like I said, nervous breakdown, sleeping in my car all night, and trying to navigate my way back. Without Google Maps, I wouldn't have really known where I was, or the area. And keep in mind too, this side of the state I've never been to, especially this area. So, when I got back home and went to work, that night I was freaked out driving back home, hoping the same thing would not happen again. I seemed to be okay. Nothing different about my car, my clothes, nothing. I have no way to accurately explain what happened, who, why, or what, which is why I was desperate for answers. So I started looking things up, and eventually found your channel. I know this occurred back in 2018, so I've been waiting to write this up for a while, and I didn't exactly find your channel right away. I've spent some time doing some research, and have been ever since. So I should more say that I was led to your channel eventually, not right after. But your other encounters and stories have answered many questions for me. The only other question I can think of is why wasn't I taken forward in time? What was the purpose of instantaneously transporting me 400 plus miles away? I wasn't microchipped. Nothing was implanted that I've seen. Nothing wrong with my car. I can't quite explain what happened. I also don't have any memory lapses. So there's really nothing to explain, other than I firmly believe I was abducted and taken without reason.